Leo Tolstoy's Anna Karenina, Part 6, in which all our protagonists find the thin veneer of tranquility in their lives tested by family and friends, with farcical and tragic consequences. Chapter 29. The narrow room for smoking and refreshments was filled with noblemen. The excitement kept mounting, and anxiety could be noticed on all faces. Especially excited were the leaders, who knew all the details and the count of all the ballots. They were the directors of the impending battle. The rest, like rank-and-file soldiers, though readying themselves before a fight, meanwhile sought distraction. Some ate and drank, standing up or sitting at the table. Others paced up and down the long room, smoking cigarettes and talking with friends they had not seen for a long time. Levin did not want to eat and did not smoke. He also did not want to mix with his own people, that is, with Sergei Ivanovitch, Stepan Arkadyevich, Zvyazhky, and the others, because Vronsky was standing with them in his equerry's uniform, engaged in an animated conversation. Levin had noticed him at the elections the day before, and had carefully avoided him, not wishing to meet him. He went over to the window and sat down, looking at the groups and listening to what was being said around him. He felt sad, especially because he could see that everyone was animated, preoccupied, and busy, and he alone, along with one extremely old, toothless man in a navy uniform, who sat next to him chewing his gums, had no interest and nothing to do. "He's such a rogue," I told him, but no, really, in 3 years he couldn't collect it. A short, stooping landowner with pomaded hair that hung over the embroidered collar of the uniform was saying energetically, stomping solidly with the heels of his new boots, evidently donned for the elections, and casting a displeased glance at Levin, he abruptly turned away. "Yes, it's dirty work, say what you will," the little landowner said in a high voice. After them, a whole crowd of landowners surrounding a fat general hurriedly came towards Levin. The landowners were obviously looking for a place to talk without being overheard. "How dare he say I ordered his trousers stolen? He'd drink them up, I suppose. I spit on him and his princely rank. He dared say that. It's swindishness." "I beg your pardon. They're basing it on the article," voices came from another group. "The wife must be on record as a noblewoman." "The devil I care about the article. I'm speaking from the soul. That's what makes us nobility. There has to be trust. Come, Your Excellency, there's fine champagne." Another crowd followed after a nobleman who was loudly shouting something. He was one of the 3 who had been made drunk. "I always advised Maria Semyonovna to lease it, because she can't make any profit," a gray-mustached landowner in the uniform of a colonel of the old general headquarters said in a pleasant voice. This was the landowner Levin had met at Zvyazhky's. He recognized him at once. The landowner also looked closer at Levin, and they greeted each other. "Delighted, of course. I remember very well. Last year at Marshal Nikolai Ivanovitch." "Well, how goes the farming?" asked Levin. "The same, still at a loss," the landowner, stopping near Levin, answered with a resigned smile, but with an expression of calm conviction that it had to be so. "And how have you wound up in our province?" he asked. "Come to take part in our coup d'etat?" he said, pronouncing the French words firmly but poorly. "All Russia's assembled here. gentlemen of the bedchamber, and all but ministers. He pointed the impressive figure of Stepan Arkadyevitch in white trousers and the uniform of a gentleman of the bedchamber, walking about with a general. I must confess that I have a very poor understanding of the significance of these elections among the nobility, said Levin. The landowner looked at him. What's there to understand? There is no significance, an obsolete institution that goes on moving only by the force of inertia. Look at the uniforms, even they tell you this is an assembly of justice of the peace, of permanent members, and so on, and not of the nobility. Then why do you come? Asked Levin. Out of habit, that's all. And one must also keep up one's connections, a moral responsibility in a sense. And then, to tell the truth, there is a certain interest. My son-in-law wants to stand as a permanent member. They're not well-to-do people, and I must help him win. But why do these people come? He said, pointing to the venomous gentleman who had spoken at the governor's table. That's the new generation of nobility. New it is, but not nobility. They are landlords, and we are landowners. As nobility, they're committing suicide. But you yourself say that it's an outdated institution. Outdated it is, but still it ought to be treated more respectfully. Take Snetkov. Good or not, we've been 1,000 years growing. You know, when you want to make a garden in front of your house, you have to lay it out, and there's 100-year-old tree growing in that spot. Though it's old and gnarled, you still won't cut the old-timer down for the sake of your flower beds. You'll lay them out so as to include the tree. It can't be grown in a year, he said cautiously, and immediately changed the subject. Well, and how's your estate? Not so good, about 5%. Yes, but you're not counting yourself. You're also worth something. I'll tell you about myself. Before I took up farming, I had a salary of 3,000 rubles in the service. Now I work more than in the service, and like you, I get 5%. And thank God for that, and my work is done free. Then why do it, if it's an outright loss? You just do. What can I say? A habit, and I also knowing that you have to do it. I'll tell you more. The landowner went on, leaning his elbow on the windowsill and warming to the subject. My son has no interest in farming. It's obvious he'll be a scholar, so there won't be anybody to carry on, and still you do it. I've just planted a garden. Yes, said Levin, it's perfectly true. I always felt that there's no real economy in my farming, and yet I do it. You feel a sort of responsibility towards the land. Here's what I'll tell you, the landowner went on. I had a merchant for a neighbor. We took a walk round my farm, my garden. No, he says, Stepan Vasilich, you've got everything going in good order, but your little garden's neglected, though my garden's in quite good order. If it was me, I'd cut those lindens down, only the sap must have risen. You've got 1,000 lindens here, and each one would yield 2 good pieces of bast. Bast vesture's a nice price these days, and you can cut a good bit of lumber out of the lindens. And he'd use the money to buy cattle or land for next to nothing, and lease it out to muzhiks. Levin finished with a smile, obviously having met with such calculations more than once. And he'll make a fortune, while you and I, God help us, just to hang on to what's ours and leave it to our children. You're married, I hear, said the landowner. Yes, Levin replied with proud satisfaction. Yes, it's a strange thing, he went on, the way we live like this without reckoning, as if we've been appointed like ancient vestals to tend some sort of fire. The landowner smiled at his white mustache. There are also some among us, our friend Nikolai Ivanitch, for instance, or Count Vronsky, who's settled here now. They want to introduce industry into agronomy, but that hasn't led to anything yet except destroying capital. But why don't we do as the merchants do? Cut down the lindens for bast, said Levin, going back to a thought that had struck him. It's tending the fire, as you say. No, that's no business for noblemen, and our noblemen's business isn't done here at the elections, but there in our own corner. There's also the instinct of your class, what's done and what isn't done. And the musics are the same. To look at them sometimes, a good music just takes and rents as much land as he can. No matter how poor it is, he plows away, also without reckoning, for an outright loss. Just like us, said Levine. It's been very, very nice to meet you again, he added, seeing Sviazhsky approaching them. And here we've just met for the first time since we were at your place, said the landowner, so we fell to talking. Well, have you denounced the new ways? Sviazhsky said with a smile. That, too, unburdened our souls. If you enjoy this format, please leave a like and subscribe and return tomorrow for the next chapter.